and that's what we're here to talk about today. We started early this morning at 7:30 with a couple of calls, and we've been on the phone talking to people and having meetings ever since then. We'll have more this afternoon with House and Senate leadership with John Patterson and Cindy O'Laughlin, who I assume will be the pro tem of the Senate, and excited to work with both of them, and we're very willing to get going on that. Really today I wanted to talk to you about our transition director. Many of you in this room know who Adam Gresham is, who stands here to my left. Adam has been with me for all 14 years. I knew him actually when he worked in Governor Blunt's administration some almost 20 years ago. Adam's from Jefferson City, went to the Naval Academy, went on to serve our country in the Marine Corps, and did an excellent job serving our country for several years in the Marine Corps. He and his wife live here. I know his family. I know his father. I know his mother-in-law. I knew his past father-in-law, who we lost a few years ago. He's a rock-solid person that really wants to do the best for Missouri, and I'm excited to have him as our transition director. So he's going to help us put together the most qualified team to achieve the goals we've been talking about. We really believe we won both the primary and the general because Missourians thought that our goals and the direction we wanted to take the state agreed with them. And so we look at that as their way of saying, okay, this is what you said, now let's get it done. And Adam's going to help us put together a team here that does this. And I do want to say the Governor Parson has been very accommodating. I'm a big fan of Mike Parsons. I think you know that. But he and Teresa and then many of the governor's staff have been very active in reaching out to us, letting us know what we can do to help with the transition. And so we're grateful to Governor Parson and his team for also offering that. So I'm going to turn it over to Adam and let him tell you what's on his mind, and we'll take some questions after that. So, Adam?
Thank you. Well, thank you. Congratulations, Governor-elect. To you, my charge from Governor-elect Kehoe is to help him build an administration that represents his values, and shares his vision for Missouri. We need it to be composed of the best people possible, and we need it to function in a manner that meets the needs of Missourians. The Governor-elect's small business background means that he expects state government to function effectively and in a timely manner. The transition window that we've got is small, and there's a lot of things that need to be accomplished in a very short order. These include, but are certainly not limited to, the state budget, policy, and staffing. It's important for Missourians to know how the transition is progressing, and Governor-elect Kehoe has instructed me to ensure we work to make this process transparent and accessible, and that's why we're holding this press conference today. We'll continue to keep the media and Missourians informed. As the Governor-elect said, the work of the transition began today, and it's going to continue until noon on January the 13th when Governor-elect Kehoe is sworn in. Later this week, I'll announce the other members of Governor-elect Kehoe's transition team. And since we're building a team, I want to ask here for any of those who might be interested in serving in the Kehoe administration. We have a website set up, governor-elect.mo.gov. So anybody who wants to explore opportunities, please feel free to do that. Again, it's governor-elect.mo.gov. Thank you. I'm happy to take any questions.
Have they given you a budget for this transition? Like $100,000?
It's in statute, Kurt, yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's defined, and so that is the budget for the governor's office transition.
And then have you started to, well, I believe you have started to already interview people, perhaps some from the Parson administration, but have you made any decisions yet on who you're looking for, who's going to stay on board?
This press conference today is announcing me as the transition director, and so that process will begin, has started today, and we'll do that going forward, interviewing people. I have not made an offer to anybody. Again, just put in this position today with the election yesterday.
To Missourians that are watching this, what does it take to transition a governor to another hand of another governor? What does that all take, and can you kind of give me that elevator speech?
Sure. Well, it takes a lot. I mentioned just a couple of things in here. We've clearly got to formulate a policy approach. We've been working on many of these policy ideas, and Governor-elect is committed to a number of things in his campaign, and so we're going to have to work on that, getting those policy proposals put together. We've also got staffing. There's a whole cabinet that has to be put together, and so it's robust. The timeline is tight, but there's a lot of things that need to be done which is why I look forward, and I'm sure you'll look forward too, to whenever I announce the other members of the transition team. My goal and my charge from Governor-elect is to make sure we put together a team that moves Missouri forward, that represents his values, and that works for Missouri. And so that's a lot to do in a small answer. There's a lot of things that need to happen.
I have a question for the governor-elect.
Any more for Adam?
Yeah, does this, you taking this position mean you're not going to carry on as chief of staff under the new administration?
Kurt, the point of this, this is announcing me as the transition director. Anything talking about any position I may or may not have in the governor's office, that's premature at this point.
Adam, I want to talk about the cabinet right now.
Mhm.
Obviously, you still don't know what it's like going forward, but is there a shakeup that Missourians can expect? Has your conversation been that you want to leave things kind of as they are in the different cabinets that Missouri has?
My goal is to find the best people for the right positions, whatever that may look like. So that's my goal. That's what Governor-elect has charged me to do. And so right now, that's what I'm focused on doing, wherever those people may be.
We've heard the governor-elect talk a lot about his crime plan.
Mhm.
I know their details weren't really released yet because we're waiting for this, but is that part of this? Or is that, where does that fall into it?
It absolutely does. Absolutely does. And that's, I don't want to steal Governor-elect's thunder, but that's something we've been working on even as he was campaigning. That crime plan is in the works, and when you will see that unveiled when the time is appropriate. And his commitment has been that whenever his hand comes off the Bible on day one, that we have that ready to go. We'll meet that commitment.
How many people are you looking for?
In what respect? So.
In building the transition, how many people do you go to that website and say, yeah, I want to work for them?
Anybody who has an interest in doing it. And so I put that out. If Missourians from across the state, I don't know how many we'll get. Maybe we can break the website. I don't know how that works, but I want anybody who has an interest, if they have an interest, they should explore that. And if they think that if they have something they can offer, we'll be glad to look at that. Again, what Governor-elect has told me to do is put together the best team that represents his values and works on behalf of Missourians.
Now I'll switch to questions for the governor-elect.
Thank you, Adam. I can tell you that I put a lot of trust and faith in Adam Gresham, and as he mentioned, our crime plan has been being worked on by stakeholders, so police chiefs, sheriffs, highway patrol, retired highway patrol folks. Attorney General Bailey's been heavily involved in those conversations, and it's not baked yet, but we didn't want to wait till November 6th to start figuring out what that might look like. So I think it's responsible for anybody, no matter if it was me or anybody else running for governor, to not wait until the election. I'm hopeful that all the other candidates were working on trying to make sure they had a team ready to get to today.
Amendment 3 passed. I think that's probably on everyone's minds. Obviously, that needs to go through some court challenges, but as governor, what kind of policies or restrictions on abortion would you like the legislature to enact within that framework?
Sure. I mean, I've been very clear on this, is that I was not a fan of Amendment 3. I was hopeful and prayerful that it would fail, but it has passed. I've also said that my hand will go on the Bible to protect the Constitution, and I mean that. But I'm also going to always work for ways to protect innocent life and really create a culture of life within our state. I think that's one of the problems that we have as a country and as a state, is that we've lost the value, in my opinion, of the meaning of life, and certainly innocent life is one of those. I work with legislative leaders to answer that question, to find out what their caucuses feel like any appropriate next steps are, or if those steps are available in the legislative level.
Do you think there needs to be lawsuits filed against Amendment 3? Do you think that there's legal action?
You know, that the same as you guys, I've heard and read some reports on social media that people were thinking about that. I haven't been a part of any of those conversations, so.
I'm hoping to drill down just a little bit, realizing you're not Attorney General, but in light of the passage of Amendment 3, I mean, what can you do? It's like, it would seem to the ordinary person that your hands are tied, because this is a constitutional amendment. And you talked about how that was valuable for you to abide by the Constitution, yet you want to ensure that Missouri respects and protects innocent life, to use your words. I mean, what can you do?
Well, we're going to have to work, like I said, we're going to have to work with our legislators and leaders to find out what are any other options that we can do to protect innocent life. And you're right, once it's in the Constitution, it's, it's not an option, right? And so we'll have to look and see what all the avenues that are available. It's important to me, and I've made that very clear through this whole campaign, that protecting innocent life and creating a culture of life in this state is very important to me.
Are there particular cabinet heads now that you would like to keep on board, and if so, what?
Look, I think Governor Parson has probably one of the most talented cabinets I've ever seen. But he and I manage different, and so any time I've ever acquired a business as a small business person, I've always been interested in talking to people that are at that business as well as other people that are outsiders, and find out who is the most qualified to meet our objectives. So I look forward to having conversations with all those people, Kurt.
You know, the first thing you said after thanking folks, I'm talking about your mom, which was pretty moving, was about having police officers' backs. And I know that that's something that you're still working on, all of the policy proposals, but you said you've already started. Can you give me some ideas about specific policy initiatives that you would push the legislature to accomplish that goal?
Yeah, I've been, very vocal, especially in St. Louis. I think state control is appropriate for that police department. I've talked to Mayor Jones this morning, and she violently disagrees. I wouldn't say violently. She very much disagrees. The word violent is not appropriate, so I'm sorry. But I've known Tashara a long time. We come from the same neighborhood, and we both want what's right for St. Louis. So I think that's a piece of that puzzle. I don't think it's the only puzzle. There are other states around the union. We're looking at some models they've done for recruiting and retention of law enforcement officers, and we think we've got some pretty good ideas out there to give the men and ladies in blue the resources they need, the protections their family need, to really make Missouri one of the best, if not the best, law enforcement states in the nation. And our crime plan will include what that's all about. But we've got some really good ideas out there on that.
Have you spoken with Chief Tracy?
I have not today. I have previously in the last couple of days, multiple times. I would consider Chief Tracy a very good friend. I think he's a great leader. I'm very happy that St. Louis has him. And with him and Gabe Gore in place, I think we've got some of the essentials we need to really get some things done. And that, quite frankly, that was the mayor's conversation this morning. And I don't think she'd mind telling you. She feels like they're making progress. And I'm going to be open to sitting down and talking with Tashara, Mayor Jones. I'm sorry about that.
May I ask, I believe I am the only Kansas City media representative.
Very good.
And I realize the state control issue is something right now confined to St. Louis. It may eventually come up in Kansas City, as there have been repeated discussions about perhaps trying to take back local control. But who are the officials? You mentioned talking to county executives and mayors and police chiefs. Have you had any conversations with any of the folks in the Kansas City area?
Oh, absolutely.
Who?
Mayor Lucas, specifically. Mayor Lucas and I have always had a very good, cordial relationship. And I would say the other mayors and county executives the same. Is everybody in this room knows, I tell people all the time I'm a relationship person. Doesn't mean if I don't agree with you, doesn't mean that we can't also try to talk about what's good for the common cause. So I had a great conversation with Mayor Lucas. I've had a lot of good conversations, and sometimes I'll just tell him, Quentin, that's not the direction I think we should go, and he'll tell me. And so that doesn't bother me. That's called life.
Is there anything where you found some common ground that you both said, yeah, I think that's a great idea?
We want the Chiefs and Royals to stay here. How's that?
For my Kansas City station, I want to ask about Eric the Vulcaneer.
Yes.
Do you think that Parson is going to pardon him before, or is that something that's going to be on your desk when you take over?
I'm very sensitive to Eric's case. I would consider Sarah a good friend of my wife and I's. I met Sarah and Eric before he was imprisoned, and I would say wrongly. I believe we need to have Eric's back. And I've been very vocal about saying, should I succeed in running for governor, Eric the Vulcaneer will be home with his family. I still am hopeful and prayerful that that happens before I get into the governor's office.
When we're talking about St. Louis and crime, I'm sure the mayor pushed back and said, look, our crime numbers are down year to year. Not there yet, all the way there yet, but we're making progress. What do you say to people who see those numbers and think that things are improving.
Well, one thing I hope to do is connect the two people who think those numbers are different. So when I go talk to the business community, and I was just at the old post office with many developers in the downtown area about 10 days ago, and they're concerned about spending capital in downtown and additional redevelopment without the crime situation improving. And so we need to get Chief Tracy and Mayor Jones, and hopefully myself, if they're all willing to do this, and then the developers who are willing to develop those areas to say, here's the numbers they see happening, what do you guys see happening? There's a disconnect there, is what I'm telling you. And you're not going to have any private business consortium spend money in redeveloping areas of any inner city, not just St. Louis, unless they feel like their employees, their customers, et cetera, can be safe. And so that's the goal. We need to get everybody on the same page on what it takes for them to deploy capital into the inner city St. Louis and what the city's commitment is to make sure that that capital is protected.
Have you had any discussions with the current administration about what size of the budget supplemental that you're going to have to work on in the next session?
We've had some conversation with current administration at a very high level because obviously it wasn't in the position I found myself in until last night. But we have had a high-level conversation as well as the appropriators, both the House and the Senate, to find out what that's going to look like. I don't have an exact number on it now, but we'll be sure that's coming together very quickly.
Have you spoken with the Lieutenant Governor-elect, and are you on this committee?
I have. I've spoken to all the statewide elected officials and current officials, including Auditor Fitzpatrick today. We have a great team. We'll be meeting in person this week with each other to try to make sure we understand what our common goals are, what we can do to work together. I think Lieutenant Governor Wassinger is going to do a great job. I think you probably would be shocked if I didn't tell him this office is very important to me. I think Mike Parson did. I think Peter Kinder did a great job. I think Mike Parson did a great job. And the Office of Lieutenant Governor for Veterans Advocacy, for tourism, for senior advocacy, Buy Missouri, et cetera, has a lot of really important components to Missourians, as well as the ability to preside over the Senate. And I've offered to help him all I can. Adam has had many conversations with him. David seems very willing to learn.
Amendment 2 passed, kind of at the moment. It's still really tight, but that's what they're declaring at this moment. Amendment 2, where did you stand on that, and do you believe that it's going to bring all this money into education? I know there's a lot of people that are concerned that it won't.
Yeah, I was a fan of Amendment 2, but it wasn't like my number one priority to talk about amendments. The number one priority in amendments for me was defeating 3. But if somebody asked me casually, are you a fan of Amendment 2? I am for this reason. I'm not a sports gambling. I'm not a gambler at all, to be honest with you. But when the surrounding states all have it and Missourians don't have an opportunity to it, I just looked at that as the business case, first of all. And again, as we talked earlier about Amendment 3, the constitutional funding is in the language. And so that funding will go to education.
To continue. I probably have time for 2 more.
Do you have plans to live in the mansion, or are you going to stay in your current residence, or stay at the farm? What's going to happen?
Is that the only question you have for me today, Kurt? I am, and I will tell you, Claudia, my wife Claudia, many of you have met many times. We are incredible fans of the history of the mansion, of what the Parsons and the various state legislator appropriators, as well as OA and others, have done to restore the magnificence of that building. So we have a lot of respect for it. Whether we stay in there every night or not, I don't know that we've gotten to the point where we're going to make that decision. We're very sensitive to the folks who are tasked with keeping an eye on us, and we're not going to imposition those people. So, but as you're mentioning, we still have a full operating business at the farm, and so I intend to continue to operate that cattle operation. So we'll spend some time there, and we'll kind of cross that bridge when we get to it. But Teresa Parson has done an incredible job, and we've had a lot of great first ladies, so this is not a slam against anybody else, of really opening up what she's coined as the people's house. The mansion staff is some of the best people I've ever worked with, and so we're big fans of keeping that mansion in the shape that it's in and open to the public.
What do you hope to accomplish in the next 90 days?
Putting the team together, I think, is very important, as Adam mentioned. And again, we're looking at what that takes to not only accomplish our goals, but when you get into this position, you have the things that you told Missourians you want to do on the campaign trail, but then you know what else? Life happens. We had some incredible flooding and some very difficult situations Missourians were put in, specifically in Carter County and down in southeast Missouri yesterday. Our own farm is underwater right now for the first time in many, many years. So just different things like that, that as you're going through the transition process, things that you don't expect happen, and we're looking forward to working through how to resolve those problems and take care of Missourians who are in tough situations.
And I wanted to ask about the sports betting and keeping the Chiefs and the Royals here. Is that part of your plan? We heard from Parson that he's trying to get something on the books before he leaves office, but are you expecting to having to pick that up and possibly do something next session about that?
Yeah, I've asked him to take care of that before I got into office, too. I guess we're not allowed to tell jokes here. Gabby's having a heart attack when I say stuff like that. You guys will find that I'm serious, but I like to be light. I think it's a piece, Emily, to answer your question. I don't know that it solves the entire problem, but that entire situation of where those teams go and what it takes to keep them in Missouri has a lot of components to it, and it's a moving puzzle all the time. So I think it's, in my opinion, it's definitely an important piece to the puzzle.
You had any contact with President-elect?
I have not. I called him, but he didn't answer my call. No, I'm being facetious. I shouldn't have said that. He did call me after the primary, and we had a great conversation with him. I'm sure President-elect Trump has had a lot on his mind. I look forward to working with him. I'm very excited about that, by the way, because as you know, he endorsed a couple of people, three, I guess, people in our primary. But when I talked to him that night, he said, you know, I wanted the business guy to win. And we had a great conversation about business. He knows that that's my background. I'm not a politician by trade, and I'm really excited. It looks like we're obviously going to hold the Senate. I think most people agree that's probably going to happen. It's a give and take on the House right now, but certainly if he is able to have both of the chambers with him and then multiple states around the United States that are run by Republican governors, you know, quite frankly, the pressure's on. It's going to be our turn to deliver, and I know he wants to do that. I want to do that.
I think that's all we have time for. This is good.
Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks to OA, who put together a nice transition space. We have a lot of great folks in state workforce, and I'm impressed, more impressed with them every day that I'm around them. So thank you guys.